The most common issue we deal with here at Fusion is trying to explain the difference between vector art and pixel art. And so I'm going to walk through really quickly what the difference is between the two and why we're looking generally to get vector art when we can, especially for things like logos and stuff that's going to be blown up really, really big. So what I'm going to show you really fast, I'm going to create a document that's the size of a typical banner. This is going to be a 4-foot high, 8-foot wide banner. So here's that banner, okay? And I'm going to bring in a logo that was pulled off of a website, which is a lot of times what will happen. So let's say this is a sponsorship banner at a high school, and they've got like 20 different sponsors, and they said, hey, just go get our, this is where we got the logos. We went on the website. This is how we got them. So I'm going to show you really quickly why that's not such a great idea and why we generally ask for vector files so that we can get something the right size. So I'm going to copy this file and I'm going to paste it into this 4-foot by 8-foot piece. And you'll notice how big the logo is. It's really small. And so when somebody says, well, gee, that's my logo, I want that to be really big, if I scale that logo up, you'll notice how those boxes get really chunky. The computer does a good job of trying to fill that in later, but I'm going to zoom into what it would look like at 100%, as if it was full size. And you'll notice how jaggy and soft and how not clear this logo looks, okay? But that's that logo placed at that size on that banner. Now I'm going to take the exact same logo supplied to me as an EPS file or a vector file. Vector files are not made up of little squares. They're made up of more of a mathematical way of defining a shape. So when I select a shape, I can do simple things like changing the color really easily because it's a shape and I'm just changing the color that's inside. And no matter how far I zoom in, it stays nice and clean and sharp everywhere. So I'm going to take this exact same file and I'm going to copy that and put it into that banner. So here's that same file, and again, it's kind of small, but I'm gonna scale this up to be the same size as the other one, pretty much. Let's even go bigger. Now again, you're gonna see the difference. I'm gonna zoom in right here on the ease of both files, and we're gonna go again back to 100%. You'll notice the difference between the two. This again is a pixel object made up of little tiny squares. You see that? And when you have to make a pixel file bigger, it has to make up those squares and figure it out. Whereas when you look at something that's been brought in as a vector file, everything is really clean and really sharp in the file. So let me show you as well. Typical things that are pixel based are things like photographs. A photograph is made up of little tiny pixels. And it makes sense because a photograph is capturing a lot of different colors and everything all in one image. Again, a vector file is typically used for things like logos and sometimes just some pretty simple artwork. We can scale this type of artwork to any size and it will still look really good. Whereas we're very limited when we get into pixel art how much larger we can make it, because if it gets too big or if we have to scale it too much, then the image quality drops tremendously and it's just not a good product. So really quickly, something to be aware of then. When we're talking about vector artwork, we're talking about files that were created in a program like Adobe Illustrator. That's what this .ai stands for. Those extensions on files, when you get them from a designer or from somebody else, will always have the name of the file and then a dot, and it gives you an extension. and that tells us kind of what program created that file. Typically, vector art is created in something like Adobe Illustrator, which is .ai. .eps files are typical vector type files, and so are PDF files. That's not always the case with EPS and PDF, but for the most part, it's something we can probably work with. You know your file isn't vector if it's named with a .jpg or PNG or .tif. Those are pixel-based type files, and you can't convert them from one to the other. They have to be recreated. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that explains the difference and that it gives you a better idea visually what the difference is between the two and why we would ask for a vector file over a pixel type file. Again, vector files we can scale to any size, and when we're doing stuff as huge as we get around here, that's incredibly helpful if we have the right type of file.